Synagogue Worship, Origins and Role in Israelite Life. Synagogue worship is believed to have originated during the Babylonian exile, when the Israelites, specifically the Judeans, who had been taken into captivity, could no longer access the temple for sacrifices and worship. Instead, they began gathering with spiritual leaders for prayer, teaching, and the reading of Scripture. This practice became central to their identity as God's chosen people, ensuring that even in exile, they would maintain the exclusive laws and doctrines given to them by God. Synagogues later developed into essential places for communal worship and the study of the law, helping the Israelites live lives of obedience and holiness, as instructed in the Scriptures. Synagogue worship may have begun during the exile. Ezekiel 14:1. Some of the elders of Israel came to me and sat down in front of me. During the exile, the Israelites, unable to sacrifice at the temple, gathered with spiritual leaders like Ezekiel for guidance and instruction. These gatherings may have marked the early development of synagogue worship, as the people sought ways to maintain their relationship with God without access to temple services. These early forms of assembly helped preserve the covenantal laws that were meant to govern every aspect of their lives, ensuring that even in foreign lands, they remained set apart as God's people. Ezekiel 21. In the 7th year, in the 5th month on the 10th day, some of the elders of Israel came to inquire of the Lord, and they sat down in front of me. This verse further supports the idea that during the exile, the elders of Israel took leadership roles in maintaining spiritual discipline among the people. Unable to offer sacrifices, the Judean exiles would gather to listen to the law and receive counsel from prophets. These gatherings were instrumental in preserving Israelite doctrines of worship and obedience, emphasizing the need to keep the law even without the temple. A synagogue could be established anywhere. Mark 1:21. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. Synagogues were established wherever there was a community of Israelites. These were places where Judeans could gather to learn the Scriptures and maintain their identity as the chosen people of God. Even though the temple was in Jerusalem, synagogues were the local centers where Israelites learned how to apply the exclusive laws that defined their relationship with God. These places were essential in teaching the commandments and ordinances that set Israel apart from the surrounding nations. Acts 6:9. Opposition arose, however, from members of the Synagogue of the Freedmen, as it was called, Judeans of Cyrene and Alexandria, as well as the provinces of Cilicia and Asia, who began to argue with Stephen. This passage reflects the widespread presence of synagogues, not only in Israel, but also in the broader diaspora. These synagogues served as centers for worship, study, and maintaining the covenant laws that governed the lives of the Israelites. For the Judean people, synagogues were crucial in upholding their distinct worship practices, even when they lived among foreign nations. Places of prayer where synagogues could not be established. Acts 16:12-13. From there we traveled to Philippi, a Roman colony and the leading city of that district of Macedonia, and we stayed there several days. On the Sabbath we went outside the city gate to the river, where we expected to find a place of prayer. We sat down and began to speak to the women who had gathered there. In places where there were not enough Judean men to establish a synagogue, smaller places of prayer were often set up. These informal settings were still important for maintaining the spiritual disciplines of Israelite life, such as prayer and the reading of the law. Even without a formal synagogue, the people of Israel remained devoted to their calling as God's chosen nation, continuing to follow the exclusive laws that governed their worship and daily lives. Acts 17:1. When Paul and his companions had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where there was a Judean synagogue. Wherever Paul traveled, he sought out synagogues, knowing that they were the places where the Israelite communities gathered to hear the law and keep their covenant with God. Synagogues were critical for preserving the Israelite identity and helping the people live according to the divine commandments. Acts 18:19. They arrived at Ephesus, where Paul left Priscilla and Aquila. He himself went into the synagogue and reasoned with the Judeans. In Ephesus, as in many cities, the synagogue was the center of worship and teaching for the Israelite community. These institutions upheld the covenantal obligations that God had placed upon the Israelites, making them focal points for learning how to live holy lives according to God's commands. The role of the synagogue. Focus on prayer and scripture reading. Acts 13:15. After the reading from the law and the prophets, the leaders of the synagogue sent word to them, saying, "Brothers, if you have a word of exhortation for the people, please speak." The synagogue was primarily a place for the public reading of Scripture, specifically the law, Torah, and the prophets, which contained God's instructions for the Israelite people. The reading of Scripture was followed by teaching and exhortation, ensuring that the community understood how to apply the law in their lives. The synagogue thus played a vital role in helping Israelites live out their exclusive doctrines, which required strict obedience to the commandments. Nehemiah 8:2-8. So on the first day of the 7th month, Ezra the priest brought the law before the assembly, which was made up of men and women, and all who were able to understand. They read from the book of the law of God, making it clear and giving the meaning so that the people understood what was being read. In this scene, the reading and explaining of the law was a central practice, which later became a standard part of synagogue worship. The synagogue preserved and passed down the teachings that defined Israel's exclusive relationship with God, reinforcing the people's identity and their obligations to follow the divine law. Luke 4:15-33. He was teaching in their synagogues, and everyone praised him. He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom. He stood up to read, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." Jesus himself participated in synagogue worship, where the reading of Scripture and teaching were central practices. His custom of attending the synagogue reflects the importance of these institutions in maintaining the covenantal laws and doctrines that were essential for living a life of worship in Israel. Summary. The synagogue emerged as a key institution for the Israelite community during and after the exile. It became a place where the exclusive doctrines and laws given by God were taught, ensuring that Israelites, particularly the Judeans, remained faithful to their covenant relationship with Him. Whether in large cities or small gatherings, the synagogue was a place of prayer, scripture reading, and communal worship, helping the people live out the laws that set them apart from other nations. The role of the synagogue was not only to provide a place for worship, but also to reinforce the distinct identity of Israel as God's chosen people, bound by the law to live in obedience and holiness.